Hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. It is Monday, June 23rd. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. After the group stage, 3 games in, a very consistent lineup from Mauricio Pochettino, and we've seen more of these players and what they might be capable of under you could still call him the new coach, and his portfolio so far. I'd still say it's just now getting past the honeymoon period. But after 3 Gold Cup games with more of consistent lineups, which 3 players might we see next summer contributing in a big way?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, I think you could cheat with this question, Rob, and you could say Chris Richards. He's going to be in the. I mean, yes, we should expect Chris Richards to be a major part of the World Cup campaign next year. I even think it's a little bit of a cheat to say Malik Tillman. Now, is Malik Tillman a starter for the United States? I think he could be at times. I think it depends on the opponent and the game and the situation, right? That could be a thing. I do expect he'll be in a roster. Like Malik Tillman's a talented enough player, and if you read what Pochettino says about Tillman, I think he's very high on this player. No reason to think he wouldn't be in a World Cup team. A little bit of a cheat to pick him out of this group and say that's a guy that's going to be at the World Cup next year. It's kind of a duh. So I think there are a couple of other players who maybe deserve more attention on this front. Players who, when Mauricio Pochettino took the job, you wouldn't have said, oh, that guy's going to the World Cup for the U.S. men's national team. Definitely. And so in that regard, I'm going to start at the top with the guy who scored the winner last night for the United States against Haiti, and that's Patrick Agyemang. Now, I want Patrick Agyemang to be a thing, to have an influence on this team, because there's nobody else really that has stepped up and grabbed the center forward role for the U.S. men. I mean, you could argue about Ricardo Pepi, but for every player who's in that group, there is something that brings down their resume a bit, or brings down your excitement level about them. For Pepi, it's the injury that took him out and ruined his chances of being in this tournament or building something. For Fowler and Balogun, he got injured, left this team, but also didn't have a great season at Monaco and struggled a bit to get his feet underneath him in French football. You could say, well, Haji Wright got injured, left this team, unable to play, Achilles issue, I think is what it was, and not here. Josh Sargent plays very, very, very good soccer in the English Championship, and maybe he's got to move in him to the Premier League. We'll see. But he doesn't show up for the U.S. men's national team at the same level. He doesn't score goals at the same level, so it's hard to bank on him being the guy. Maybe Damian Downs is one for the future, but we haven't seen it yet. He's playing in the 2nd division in Germany. Right? I don't even know if we should give him that much attention. And maybe Agyemang playing in Major League Soccer doesn't fill you with this great hope that he's going to be a World Cup goal scorer at some significant level, Rob. But he's got skills. He's got physicality. He does look a little out of control at times, but I think he's learning as he goes, and I got to be positive about that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on the Agyemang call. Like, he's exciting, and you feel like almost anything good, bad, or ugly could come from him when the ball is at his feet. I have a little bit of a sinking feeling that he's going to be the type of player that scores and does really well against weaker opponents, but might struggle when they face some more quality. I don't think his speed and strength will necessarily beat out a lot of like top line defenders. Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong, but like we said last week, he's like a 24-year-old that kind of looks like he's 18 in some ways. Like some of the control, and like he doesn't have that what I'm doing next before the ball comes to him thing. Like, he's getting the ball and trying to make it up, it seems like, in a lot of situations, which is exciting, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to equal high level success. But he's definitely good. I mean, we weren't talking about him before January really being in this mix. So it's nice to see a new contender into that caveat bunch of group of guys that are vying for that number 9 spot. But so far through these 3 games, we're talking about candidates to maybe progress and be contributors next year in the World Cup. I thought we were going to see more from Brian White, but he doesn't seem to be getting a lot of minutes. We saw Jack McGlynn earlier on. He only got some substitute minutes. I'm not sure if he's going to be like a starter by any means, but he's got his left foot and his abilities with that add another, just a weapon to the armor there.
If we move on from Agyemang, who would be number 1 for me, I'll go to Jack McGlynn since you brought him up. There's another name on this list, but I think Jack McGlynn is a good shout because he is not a top level athlete, but what he does with that left foot and the decisions, the things he can do, the lack of predictability about what he's going to do is a wrinkle the U.S. needs. Now, I don't think he's going to be a starter, particularly when you're going up against, top 20 opposition, but to have Jack McGlynn on the bench, to bring him in the last 15 minutes of a game, maybe when you need something different, a change of pace, certainly a player with the left foot who can cut inside and do something, certainly defenders have to be wary of that, and that could open things up in that channel, overlapping him as he cuts inside. Like those things can be useful. So I'd like Jack McGlynn as a shout for this list as maybe number 2. Now we're just going to stay in the attacking area, Rob, because number 3 is Diego Luna. And I know that's not like a big stretch. People would say, oh, yeah, of course. But remember, he wasn't really a thing with the national team until January. That's always of questionable value. We called it Camp Cupcake for a reason. Yeah, broke his nose and sets up Brian White, and everybody falls in love with him. And I know there are lots of fans who would say Diego Luna should be in this picture, should have been in this picture, should have been at the Olympics with the U.S. men's national team and didn't get a chance to go. And that's all true. But he had to do some work to get here. And I do think there was at least some question as to whether or not he could translate it. And let's be fair, it's not like he's played against top-level opposition that much yet as an international. And very few of these guys have. Agyemang hasn't. Obviously, Jack McGlynn hasn't either. So we're identifying potential sort of X factors for a World Cup team, not guys that we think are absolutely going to do it against, any European side of note.
I think it's an interesting shout to Diego Luna and how like we've almost already penciled him in, but yeah, he hasn't faced that super top line talent or defense or anything like that, but he has shown consistency and a ton of growth. He's been exciting to see him leveling up over the last year or two, but yeah, definitely still a question mark, even though we really like him. And in the game last night, there was a moment where he got the ball on the left and it looked like he had plenty of space to maybe take a left-footed shot or do something, and he checked back onto his right into a crowd of players, and that was the first time I saw him play recently where I'm like, is he limited there on his left?
Yeah, there's, everybody is a little less than complete. Everybody in this team, everybody in this group, that there's just not going to be there's not going to nobody in the and maybe Malik Tillman's at that level, but again, you're also going to say, look at the opposition. Again, can Malik Tillman do it against European sides? Can he do it against England? Can he do it against France? Can he do it against Germany? I mean, that will be also a function of the team and how they play. And there's still a lot of things to consider here, but I do think that those are the obvious candidates. So Agyemang, McGlynn, Diego Luna. Now, I guess it would be up to your interpretation whether you think Luca De La Torre completely drifted out of this team and wasn't in line for a World Cup spot, but now it maybe has 1-1 back, although I don't think he was great last night. I think that was his worst performance so far in the Gold Cup. He does some things well, and there are elements to his game that could be useful. I guess it kind of depends on where Yunus Musa is, where Johnny Cardoso is, who got some garbage minutes last night. Tyler Adams, who picked up a yellow card in the first minute of the game and then had to play safe for about 80 minutes. He doesn't bring anything. Well, that's not fair because he did get a little bit more adventurous later in the game. But he does for most of that match. He didn't bring anything moving the ball forward. Nothing. And I love Tyler Adams, the effort he brings, the defensive effort, recovering the ball. But if you can't recover the ball and then use the ball, or if you can't be a worthwhile outlet in midfield, you're effectively playing with 10 when you're attacking, when you're building out, because Tyler Adams doesn't give you anything.
Before I go to the comments, I want to remind everyone that we are waiting on, or if we hit the 3 new members or 5 super chats, we will do a bonus episode or bonus segment. So if you guys are in the chat and you want to see a bonus episode, memberships or super chats will get us there. Staying on the topic of some of these players here, we're talking about who is and who isn't going to be a contributor from this group next year. Do you think Tyler Adams is still a locked-in starter for next year?
No, okay, a starter. I thought you were going to say in the roster. No, I don't think he's a locked-in starter. No, I think that that's a function of his injury problems as much as anything. They're not going to have a lot of time to sort of rep it out with Tyler Adams behind Weston McKennie and whoever McKennie is playing alongside. And that, could be Tillman. Obviously, could be that he could be that player in the midfield. So, but I do think that he more likely would work better with Weston McKennie. I think he will start games if he's healthy at the World Cup. He absolutely will. In part because, unlike against Haiti, there will be matches where the United States does not have as much as the ball, and you're really going to need that safety blanket in front of the back line defensively for the United States. That maybe was not as much of an issue last night. And again, when they were building out, they lacked ideas, and part of the reasons they struggled is because Tyler Adams isn't enough of a forward-thinking passer to provide danger. Haiti could kind of ignore him, again, until late in the match when things were stretched out and maybe the physical advantage of the Americans came to play.
Looking at the chat, and like I said, reminder, throw some super thanks our way or become a member for some bonus content. And Andrew Johnson says Arston greater than Tolkien. Any thoughts on that?
That's picking between two pretty poor things so far. I like Arston in Major League Soccer a lot. He has not brought that level to the national team. I mean, he's been okay. He's certainly cleaner on the ball than Tolkien was last night. I mean, at least in that first half. Tolkien played himself out of touch several times when he had no business doing that. He did some other decent things in that game, but I think that's it's a flip of the coin for me more than anything. And I don't know that either. If I guess one of them is probably going to the World Cup. I guess one of them is Jedi Robinson's the starter at left back, Rob, but who's the backup is an open question. So maybe you're arguing one of those guys is going. And right now, maybe it is Arvston. Although Arvston, as much as Pochettino seems to like him, is not much of a defender. And that's not his job in Columbus.
Jetman 022, feel like Pat Agyemang is a low floor, high ceiling, size alone, great perk, but he needs more technical skills. Kind of reminds him of Jordan Morris, another Agyemang comment. He'll have more time to develop under Dean Smith, assuming he's not sold for the World Cup. Not sure if he would be on the selling block. I mean, he probably, with his resume, probably wouldn't be going anywhere too aspirational this early, but I mean, a year between now and the World Cup, I mean, that could be a lot of development there.
I don't know. I think there's been some heat around a possible move for Agyemang. It does feel a little Daryl DK-esque in that. And I could see him landing in the championship. And I could actually see him thriving in the English championship. I could see him scoring double-digit goals if he had a full season under his belt. Now, he's not going to get – I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think he's going this summer. And if he's not going this summer, he needs to stay in Charlotte. Although there is that question of, you get to the end of the MLS season, what does the winter bring? Does somebody maybe make a play for him? I don't know. Maybe that's the best case scenario if you want him to develop, now that I think about it. Maybe you do want him making a January move to go play in the championship to help a team either try to win promotion or stay up or whatever, and that leads into a World Cup. But that'd just be a long run of playing soccer at a physical level.
It sure would be. And I feel like if Agyemang does make it to the championship, it would add to the forward quagmire of all of them playing at that level, not necessarily knowing what they would do at the elitist of levels. But interesting. We shall see. Chat, continue the conversation. What three players could you see from this Gold Cup group making a large contribution at World Cup 2026? If you're watching this now and are not subscribed, just hit the button. Easy peasy, doesn't cost you a thing. If you want to help the show a little bit more and get a little bit more out of it, $3.99 a month is a membership cost, and you become an MK Ultra, become part of this growing community, become part of the American soccer conversation. You can also support on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround if you want to donate outside of the YouTube bubble, and you can also name your contribution amounts over there. Thank you to everyone who's donated in either way. You can also find us on social media, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky under the name MKickaround. And you can also write us a note at morningkickaround@gmail.com.